conversation we were just having with Aaron, and bringing out our political panel. Jeannie Shanzano is with us, Bloomberg Politics contributor and senior democracy fellow with the Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress, and Chapin Fay, Actum managing director and Republican strategist. Chapin, I would just like to begin with you on where we ended with Aaron, this idea that Donald Trump is picking more moderate or establishment candidates, it seems, to endorse this time around versus some of the more firebrand type that it seemed he was attracted to in cycles before this. What do you make of it?
Well, I think he's got a professional campaign team around him, this campaign in particular, and I think they're making decisions based on winning rather than, personality or, a mercurial candidate. So I think what you're seeing is sort of a professionalization of the Trump campaign this time around, and he sort of has some old school, top-notch consultants and staffers around him, along with the original folks that I think has brought some real heavyweights to the team. And I think what you're seeing is more political calculation among the inner circle in Trump's campaign.
Well, this endorsement in Nevada is noteworthy after what we saw the RNC and Laura Trump say about Larry Hogan in Maryland. Jeannie, that didn't sound like the establishment. The NRSC probably freaked out when the RNC suggested that no one should have any respect for Larry Hogan because he didn't support Donald Trump in his criminal trial. Is this just a good day for the campaign, getting its say instead of the candidate, or do you see a trajectory, kind of an evolution for Donald Trump to become more mainstream during this cycle?
The one I feel bad for here is Bob Good. He traipsed down with his red tie on down to that to the trial in Manhattan, and like the next day, Donald Trump said, "I'm going with the other guy." And I think with the RNC and Lara Trump rather, on the Larry Hogan thing, the issue was about the fact that he had dared to cross the line of being, mildly, you can't even say critical of Trump, but saying, we should respect the conviction and what the jury had to say. I think he thinks things are different out there. And when you look at Nevada, and it was interesting to me that he waited until he left to make the endorsement is another interesting part of this. He didn't say it while he was on the ground. He waited until he left. And it's going to be curious to see how many of these Freedom Caucus members, these conservative members, how much they're willing to put up with this, because they are starting to be a bit openly critical when you read the Punch Bowl piece that Kayleigh mentioned a little while ago.
Well, as we consider the power of the Trump endorsement, we should also consider the power or not of Donald Trump's message and what he's bringing to many of these states, including Nevada, where Chapin this weekend, he was basically pitching, though he would need congressional approval, untaxed tipped income, trying to sell it to hospitality, culinary workers that are so important in that state. Is that going to work for him, even if it's a promise that he isn't necessarily unilaterally able to keep?
We'll see. I mean, I think it's a good idea, and I think it was the right place and the right time. There are 6, maybe 7 swing states that'll probably shrink as time goes on, not expand. The two campaigns are fighting over such a small percentage, right? In Nevada in 2016 and 2020, that state was won by the Democrats by just over 2 points. The polling has the two candidates, within the margin of error. I think the last round of polling had Trump up a point in Nevada. There are 300,000 Hispanic voters there. There's the union, as you mentioned, and you have to reach out to all those folks. This election could be decided, in theory, by fewer than 30,000 votes in Nevada. So I do think it's an important piece of this campaign puzzle for President Trump. And I think, coming up with unique policy proposals, while they can be maybe tried to be dismissed as election year stunts, I mean, that's what an election year is, right? So they're going to be unveiling all sorts of new creative policy proposals. So I think it was a good one. I think it was in the right time and the right place for him.
I don't know anything about election year stunts here, Chapin. I want to ask you both.
Me neither.
Well, I want to ask you both about this race for Nancy Mace and this primary that we're going to be watching in South Carolina, if only for the Kevin McCarthy effect. Jeannie, this is part of his own retribution tour, as I think Aaron noted a little bit earlier in the conversation. What will this tell us about the political landscape in the Republican Party if Kevin McCarthy can land this one?
You know, it would be a big win on his retribution tour, as you say, for Kevin McCarthy. I think the fact that Mace has the open endorsement of Donald Trump was a big coup for her. There's very little polling in these local races that is public, so it's hard to say, but some of the latest I've seen shows that she might squeak this out. She's also got some issues in Congress as well. So she's got her work cut out for her. She probably holds this out. But again, this may be only because of Donald Trump's endorsement. So I think of it a lot more to do with Donald Trump. Imagine if he had stayed quiet or gone with Templeton. That would have been a big problem for Nancy Mace.
All right, great conversation with our great panel, Jeannie Shanzano and Chapin Fay. We're going to have more with Jeannie and Chapin as we make our way closer to the presidential campaign trail. And Kaylee, the idea of debates that some of us are still having a hard time wrapping our heads around. We do have an agreement on rules, though, for the presidential. The question is, could there be anything that interrupts this? And will there be a vice presidential debate? Kamala Harris says she will be at the CBS studios whether anyone else shows up.
Yeah, remember Donald Trump, on behalf of his still not named VP, accepted a Fox debate, not the CBS one. So we're all still
I'm getting confused.
Trying to figure out what's going to happen.
It'll be quite a moment if it does.
Indeed.
Kaylee's back. We'll have a lot more straight ahead on the fastest show in politics here on Bloomberg TV and radio. This is Balance of Power. Stay with